شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome once again to our Ramadan with the Quran. In this video we're going to be talking about an important verse in the Quran. It's in the second surah of the Quran, in the fourth juz of the Quran if you like, and the verse is verse number 267. Allah says in the Quran, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you who believe, أنفقوا من طيبات ما كسبتم ومما أخرجنا لكم من الأرض ولا تيمموا الخبيث منه تنفقون ولستم بآخذيه إلا أن تغمضوا فيه. O those of you who believe, spend of the good things you have earned and of what we have brought for you from the earth, and do not opt for a bad thing, spending only from there while you are not going to accept it at all unless you close your eyes to it. So spend from the goodness from which Allah has given to you. So when you give charity, when you give your time, give quality time, give good money, not the sort of money that you wouldn't take from anybody else, right? Or you would give reluctantly. And Allah reminds us that this wealth that we have, it's incidental in the sense that it's not really our wealth anyway. It's a test for us as well. And so acceptable charity, and the one which earns full merit, is that which is spent from one's dear belongings, from the best of what you have as well. But the verse also tells us something very, very important, lest someone becomes overzealous and starts giving away all their wealth. Not everybody has the zeal that Abu Bakr or Umar or Uthman would have had. It's important that we have moderation in our expenditure as well, because Allah says mimma, which is an important inclusion here in the Quran. From that Allah says in the Quran, and it means that don't spend all of it. Allah is not saying kul, all of it in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but some of your wealth should be given, because you also have responsibilities. You also have responsibilities towards your spouse, your children, your parents. And so it's important for one to remember that there's moderation in everything that we do. And that's an important theme when we look at the Quran as well. And so this is how you get the fullness of the reward, is that you spend the best and you spend a moderate amount, not so much that you get yourself into financial difficulties as well. What really counts, of course, in charity is your sincerity, and the sincerity with which you give that money as well. And so we have from Hassan al-Basri, and may Allah be pleased with him, who says that whoever spends sincerely for the good pleasure of Allah, even if that be a single date fruit alone, that too is good enough to make one deserving of the great merit and perfect righteousness promise in the verse in the Quran here as well. So a billionaire, to them giving £1 million might not be so much, but to someone who's maybe earning £15,000 a year and just making ends meet, might give £50, might give £20, might even give £2. But it's the sincerity that makes that small donation really, really heavy and worthy in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. رُبَّ عَمَلٍ صَغِيرٍ تُكَبِّرُهُ النِّيَّةِ. Sometimes a small deed becomes magnified by virtue of one's purity, their intention as well. Now this verse also talks about something very, very interesting, or rather it alludes towards something very, very interesting, which is that there are people in this world, Muslims, who don't have the money to give for charity. And so the verse is in no way excluding them, because it's not saying that those who don't have the money are somehow going to lose out. And in fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests people in different ways. For them, there's also the option. For them, there's also the opportunity of remaining patient, reciting the Quran, performing tilawah, performing salah. They will also get the reward with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So people, as I've said before, are tested in different ways. Some people are tested with opulence and prosperity. Others are tested through difficulties, through strained circumstances. it's really about our state of gratitude, how grateful we are with Allah for whatever He grants to us as well, but also remaining patient and assisting others as well. It's also worth reflecting upon in the verse where Allah talks about asking us to give from the best of our wealth. Often we will really not think about giving the best of what we have. Allah is saying you need to give what's best, what's most beloved to you as well. And you'll find elsewhere in the Quran, for example, Allah says, وَيُطْعِمُونَ الطَّعَامَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ مِسْكِينًا وَيَتِيمًا وَأَسِيرًا, that they give to the poor even though they're in need sometimes themselves. Maybe we need to spend a little bit less this year so we can help our brothers and sisters in Syria or other parts of the world, right? How can we help them a little bit more who need it more? Maybe in Turkey with the earthquake, people who need real support. Maybe we'll spend a little bit on this, less on that, and seeing how we can help them as well. So Allah mentions also in the Quran this idea of ithar, وَيُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ وَلَوْ كَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصَةٌ, that they prefer others over themselves even though they are themselves in need. And so this is really a prophetic sifat, a prophetic trait to have, where you prioritize the needs of others over yourself. And this is really the Sufi of the modern age, the one who is able to put their desires to oneself to help out other people as well. And not to give what's invaluable to us or not valuable to us, or things that are not important, but to give what we have, the best of from the wealth that we've been given. So our wealth is really a test for us, and Ramadan is really a month to think about our financial circumstances, to think about people in our own community in Britain here who are struggling to make ends meet. Often we send money abroad, which is very, very good, but we also need to think about Muslims, people who are struggling in Britain, our neighbors, people that live around us. Have we taken care of their needs, the elderly, and people who are more vulnerable to economic shocks, for example, increase in food prices, and how we can help them in this blessed month as well? That's very, very important. But also that when we spend our wealth, we spend it intelligently. So it's very easy to give someone money and to make them rely on handouts. But that's not really what you want for people. What you want to do is to train them, to educate them, to give them the skills so that they can stand on their 2 feet. And that's incredibly motivating for people when they can work for themselves and earn a livelihood. So it's not just about giving money, but it's also thinking about how we can intelligently spend our money. Muslims in this country, and there are many Muslims in this country who have wealth, incredible amounts of wealth, and they ought to think about how they can build institutions, invest in education, so that the next generation of Muslims can really prosper and think and create and imagine a different world where Muslims are really at the forefront of some of the great innovation and ideas that the world really needs as well. But also thinking about people in impoverished countries and how we can, rather than giving them handouts, think about how we can support them, support their own families, become independent, and rather become those who find a sense of purpose in their life as well. So this is a Ramadan reflection from this verse in the Quran. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.